Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I hope you are all doing well. Now, before this video goes out, before you watch the rest of the video, I have to come on and do a disclaimer, which meant I had to get dressed, which was not on the cards today. So, as you will have seen in the thumbnail, I am doing a comparison between a heat mat and alcohol spray, combining the both and then kind of not using one, using some, just to see what the differences are in how clear I can get the resin and how many bubbles I can get out of the resin. Now, I know that people are using heat mats across the whole of the resin world, and I just thought I'd come on just to put this out there, okay? I've been speaking to Wendy at Toompish. Now, Wendy's been using a heat mat without issue for a very long time, but she has received a message from a reptile owner, and they have assured her that heat mats for reptiles are not meant to be placed on a flat surface. They are not ideal for heating your resin or to remove bubbles from your resin. Now, I know many people out there have heat mats and they might not all be reptilian ones, but the one I purchased for today's video and for future use is actually a reptilian heat mat. Now, the advice given was that they should not be placed on a flat surface and they should be placed underneath the glass tank that your reptiles are being kept in, and then there should be a gap between the tank and the ground. Now, in this video you will see it flat on my surface, but I just have to put a disclaimer out here. So in light of this new information that I got this morning before doing my voiceover, I just want to let you all know that this might not be the best method, and to really just go at it. Do not follow this as a guide on how to do it. This is just what I used in the video, and I don't want anyone else getting into any bother using a heat mat. Apparently, if they overheat or if they're left on a flat surface, they can catch fire, and I do not want that for you, and I definitely do not want that for myself. So I'm definitely going to look at it, look at how I can use it safely. I just had to let you know that I now know this information, okay? And I'm letting you know this information as well, because I know there are thousands of resin artists out there that do use a reptile heat mat, and they're not ideal. That is what I came on to say. I hope you enjoy the video. Let's go. So my aim in this video really was to put to work the heat mat and the alcohol spray. I wanted to see how much they could do to lessen the impact of the bubbles in my resin. And for that reason, I'm not using anything else to interfere with my resin. I've got the heat mat here. This is the Reptile Heat Mat. Now, I was going to link it below and tell you more about it, but in light of the new information, I'm not going to link it below. I don't want anyone taking risks unnecessarily, because it really is at your own risk, I'm afraid. But these are the spray bottles that I got. I'm going to be able to put my alcohol in them, and yeah, I'm excited for those. I am excited for those. These are the Petri Dishes. Now, you would have seen these back in the day on my channel. I used these a lot for my alcohol ink drops and my coasters. They are linked below, I believe, but they will be by the end of the video. This is also the alcohol. If I find it, I will link it below, and I will be using Vista Cascade. Unfortunately, my resin had crystallized somewhat because my craft room's quite chilly, and I did have to put my resin in a hot bath. I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to interfere with any heat in my resin at all, because I really wanted to see what the heat mat could do and what the alcohol spray could do. So here we are. We've got the first two Petri Dishes. We've got absolutely nothing is being added to that very first one. This is just a neat pour. There are bubbles in this resin. I could have left the resin to sit for 5-10 minutes for all the bubbles to rise to the top, but again, I didn't want to do that. I want to put these tools to work. So I mixed my resin, poured straight away, and here are the first two. So the one on the left, I'm not touching it. The one on the right, I'm adding alcohol spray, and oh my goodness. I've seen Wendy do this, I've seen everyone do this, and everyone's recommended this, but until you see it with your own eyes, I was like, what? Hold on a minute. It was unbelievable. I'm going to do a close-up. Here you go. Immediate. I knew it, but I'd never seen it up close. In the next two, we are testing alcohol spray and the heat mat. and the one on the right is heat mat only. Now, for the purposes of this video, I actually put them on a board so that I could pour the resin and spray the alcohol spray without getting it on the Reptile mat. This was filmed before I knew anything about the Reptile mat, and actually I decided to rest mine on some oven-proof paper because my worktop is vinyl and I didn't really feel confident putting a heat mat on vinyl. So I rested it on some heat-proof oven paper. I figured if that can take 220 degrees, then it can take a really mildly warm heat mat, because actually this heat mat does not get hot. You can rest your hand on it, doesn't get hot. Yeah, so I figured it would be fine on oven-proof paper. So here I am just turning it on, and then I actually went ahead and I covered it up. Now, this is where I think I made an error. I don't believe I should have covered them. I truly covered them so no debris would get in, no dust would get in, but I think this was probably an error. So here we are next day. So I've got them lined up with their corresponding labels, and yeah, I can already see there's bubbles in all of them. So we're going to talk about that, and I definitely think covering the heat pad was a big mistake. So this is the very first one. This is the one where I added absolutely nothing into it. I just let the resin do its thing, heat itself naturally. It's not that bad. There are bubbles throughout, and it's almost foggy in appearance. When we compare it in a moment to the heat mat only, it's still foggy in appearance. So there are some bubbles that have risen to the surface. There are edge bubbles because, again, I didn't use any silicone tools or heat tools. I feel like I could have got those bubbles out if I had used silicone tools and heat tools, because actually, as it stands on its own, it's not a bad result. So the next one we are going to demold is the alcohol spray only. Now bear in mind, these two Petri dishes were sitting across the other side of my craft room, away from the radiator, away from any heat source, and this was alcohol spray only. I don't think it's that bad, but I could see a lot of bubbles inside, so they weren't just on the surface, they were internal. They were almost floating in the middle of the resin, and I can see a depth difference as well. So again, it's not a fair experiment because one's deeper than the other. Now this was heat mat only. I noticed immediately a cluster of bubbles right in the center, and it was risen. I could feel it. It was like a big mountain. Now bearing in mind I had this covered over, but I also felt like it was clearer. So the resin itself overall was clearer in appearance than the nothing Petri dish example. I feel like the heat mat would have done that, but I feel like because maybe I covered it over, maybe it was detrimental. Maybe there was condensation in there and it just didn't like it. Now this is the one, before we actually see it, I thought this was going to be the best result. This is the alcohol and heat mat, and the results are shocking. Absolutely shocking. I'm going to show you it now against a dark background. We have a galaxy of bubbles. A galaxy of bubbles. Absolutely was not expecting this. I genuinely thought with everything being thrown at it, it would give me the best result. But I don't know, you know. I think covering the heat mat was an issue. However, the heat mat only still came out better than the heat mat and alcohol spray. So yeah, I've learned so much here. So I already know I'm going to actually show you both of them together here. So we've got heat mat only and alcohol spray and heat mat. Now, bearing in mind these two were covered up. They were covered up with a plastic box over the top. Not ideal. Again, I've spoken to Wendy. She was like, don't cover them. Okay. However, they are clearer in colour. They've got more of a crystal-like appearance than the ones that didn't have any heat mat. And I'll tell you why I think that is. I think the nothing on the left and the alcohol spray only, they've got micro bubbles. Micro bubbles that are probably not even visible to the naked eye. And that gives them a foggy appearance. I think that makes sense. I know what I'm trying to say. But yeah, this one here, shocking. It really shocked me. I demolded it. I was like, what? How does that even work? But yeah, but definitely these two here have come out the clearest. I'm actually going to give you a close-up of both of these. So the one on the left is nothing added. The one on the right, heat mat only. Almost identical in finish. However, can you see? I hope you can see. The one on the left is foggy in appearance. So these two now, oh my gosh, the worst results. This was alcohol spray and heat mat, and then alcohol spray on its own. And actually the alcohol spray on its own did a better job than the alcohol spray with heat mat. Oh my gosh. These results just threw me. So I was not expecting this at all. I was expecting crystal clear resin across the board. But actually I'm putting them in my favourite order here. The order in which I think the resin is clearer. So even though we've got bubbles from the heat mat only, I think the resin itself is clearer. It's got rid of the internal micro bubbles that cause that fogginess. So we've got heat mat only and then nothing. What? And then alcohol spray only, and then alcohol spray and heat mat. But guys, bear in mind, this is completely different to anything I would ever do. I would always use a heat tool. I would always use either a torch, a heat tool. I would use a silicone tool to get rid of all those edge bubbles that you can see there. I really would do a lot more than you're seeing in this video. So I already know the strategy moving forward. I am going to use my silicone tool to get rid of edge bubbles. I'm going to use my heat tool, and then depending on whether or not I continue using the heat mat, but that is definitely going to be my way forward. But I hope you found this helpful. Yeah, I don't know what happened with this one. I just don't know what happened with this one at all. Heat definitely helps. I think personally I'm going to stick to my heat gun, I'm going to stick to my silicone tool and use the heat mat in a safer way. But yeah, that is me out. I hope you found this helpful and I will see you all in the next video. Bye.